What's going on, everybody? Brett here, and we're back playing some more Total War Warhammer 2. Doing a little 1v1 here against a good buddy of mine, Triari. And the whole premise of this battle, Triari really wanted to test out his favorite meta Vampire Coast build. And he wanted me to take a dwarf army. I told him at the onset of this that it would not be a traditional one, and it certainly was not. And I'm going to get into that in just a second, but let's look at his build to see why he feels like this is a really great anti-dwarf Vampire Coast build. So in the front lines, you see tons of zombie pirate deckhand mobs, 4 groups to be exact. They're meant just to hold back any type of dwarven aggression that they may see, to take shots from rangers and quarrelers, that sort of thing. And then all around this build, you'll see tons of zombie pirate deckhand mobs with polearms. And these guys are great. Let's go ahead and pull up their unit card, because they do also have armor piercing. Obviously, bonus versus large, not relevant against the dwarves, but their sheer numbers, the model unit size is 160. They take forever to get through. And with their armor piercing, they do a pretty good job of fighting against units like dwarf warriors, even longbeards. They can hold up for quite some time. And you'll see here his artillery core is encased in them. I think there's 5 in total. And that's a pretty solid number. And that's going to be the type of defensive units that he needs to protect himself while his 3 carronades, count them 3, and Queen Bess go to town. Also 2 mortars, in addition, that I like quite a bit. The dwarves being all infantry, there will be no shortage of targets for these mortars to shoot at. Any quarrelers, any rangers, any type of range units that want to sit still, they'll be able to hit them effectively. And the carronades are there, no doubt, to counter skirmish any type of artillery that the dwarves may bring. Now, Queen Bess, of course, is the piece de resistance of this army. She has huge range, 450. She has her special, let's go ahead and see if we can get this up, monstrous impact, so reduces speed and charge speed, and also does flaming attacks, which isn't relevant versus the dwarves, but the slow certainly is. And the thing about Queen Bess is she only has 16 ammunition, but when used in conjunction with a gunnery wight, this gentleman here, has the ability to, let's see if we can pull him into focus and check out his unit card. So Enchanted Ballistics gives increased accuracy and reload skill, which are 2 things that Queen Bess sorely needs, but also more powder. The ability to replenish ammunition has 4 charges of this. Will be able to ensure that Queen Bess fires for the entirety of this battle, and also Deadeye, so even more missile damage, even more armor piercing damage. And then almost last but not least, we have the Lamprey's Revenge, the Regiment of Renown for the Rotting Promethean Gunnery Mob. These guys don't have great range. They're essentially, kind of like shotgunners. You see they have almost like little cannons in their hands. Their missile damage is not what does the majority of the work for these units. They have incredibly high defensive stats, 63 melee defense, 120 armor, but they also have regen, which is beautiful for these guys. Gives them a bit of a weakness to fire, but not relevant once again, and they cause fear, as well as doing pretty decent armor piercing. Great unit versus the dwarves. Unless they're heavily focus fired, they're a very difficult unit to take out. And then of course we also have Cylostra Direfin as the head of this army. Took quite a few spells. Kiss of the Deep, every time he casts a spell with her, it's going to do a little bit of magic damage to us. She's ethereal, of course, so she does have the 75% physical resistance, which is great. Just look at her model. She's such a cool lord, cool addition to the lore of Warhammer. Being a CA created lord. I think I was a little worried initially that she wouldn't really fit in, but she really does. Also, Denizens of the Deep to summon Rotting Prometheans, as well as Vangeist's Revenge, a huge wind spell, which we'll get to see, I think, more than once this game. Song of Enthrallment, a bit of a debuff there, and Ghost of the Past, a unique ability to her. Lets her summon a unit of damned knight errants, which, once again, the magic damage not great against the dwarves, but as just a standard unit that can get into the back lines or halt a charge, they are quite useful. And you'll see here, before we go over to the main army, a big component of my army was that I was trying to use the Skyhammer in conjunction with 2 standard gyrocopters to get in amongst the back line of the vampire counts and to shut down Queen Bess. I had a feeling he was going to take Queen Bess. I know him. We played lots of games together. And yeah, he did not disappoint. So I was going to try and shut her down. It's not easy to do. She has pretty decent health pool. If you're able to shoot at her with some standard cannons, which I would definitely have if I was going a more regular build, then we could potentially shut her down before she'd be able to do too much damage here. But all of the carronades of my opponent have turned to try and counter my gyrocopter initiation. The Skyhammer is getting in there. And the difference between the Skyhammer as a regiment of renown, check out the missile damage, 1,321. But it's still bugged in Total War. It doesn't show the amount of kills that it gets with its bombs. And the Skyhammer has unique bombs that it drops. They're these huge clusters, and it does great armor-piercing anti-infantry damage, but it's not going to be super valuable against the vampire counts unless they bring depth guard, because it really just feels like a waste of attacks whenever you're shooting at these huge, very cheap groups of units. So while they're performing their flanking maneuvers and doing their best, I think I've already lost one gyrocopter, and I certainly have to carronade fire. I've realized that I can't just hold this hill. I had a nice little position here with 2 organ guns on top, and I wanted to take the organ guns because, once again, they're a unit you don't get to see very often. They're not your optimal choice here against the Vampire Coast, but I thought they would be pretty fun to bring and to check out. You already probably have noticed my color scheme, and that's because my Lord is Ungrim Iron Fist, pretty much stripped down. I had a little bit of extra gold at the end of my build, so I thought I'd take Deadly Onslaught, give him some more armor-piercing damage. You never know what you're going to fight, and if you ended up fighting lots of crabs or Cylostra on her crab mount, the Rotting Leviathan, then we'd be very happy to have as much armor piercing as we could get. So my front line is pretty much all Dwarf Warriors, which is really all you need to fight these really cheap chaff units, and miners with blasting charges. So we'll take a look at these guys here. And I had them kind of staggered, trying to make sure that I didn't take any type of wind blast that could hit my entire front line. The miners with blasting charges, the blasting charges do a lot of work against these, tightly packed and relatively low defense having units. I also took 2 Thanes. That's another thing that's pretty different about this build. 2 Thanes completely stripped down, very cheap, but also very difficult for the Vampire Coast to deal with. They're heavily armored, their defensive stats are great, they can fight, 375 weapon strength is certainly not bad. The screen stutters a little bit here to spin us around. You're going to see here, we're already going to see some of these summons. I think these are the damn Knight Errants, and they certainly are going to be used to either help defend his artillery or to help, in our frontline engagement here. But the Thanes are just such useful tools. Once again, if this was a competitive build, I would certainly be bringing Runesmiths. I also decided to take, I think I only took 2 units of Rangers. If I was fighting these guys competitively, I would probably have about 6 of these. They're super effective at dealing with counter-skirmishing from the Vampire Coast. They also have Stalk, which renders them basically... I'm not sure if Stalk is the name of it. Yes, Stalk is the name of the ability, but it renders them essentially invisible until they get into firing range. So they're not able to be taken out easily, as would, let's say, Quarrelers. So something we kind of missed here. I was able to drop a few bombs on these zombie pirate deckhand mobs, as well as on these polearm variant as well. It was really taxing my micro to try and dodge with 3 separate units the different fire that I was taking from the carronades while dropping bombs and moving my army forward. And I think that's pretty much all there is to my army. I just need to get these organ guns into range. I need to get these gyrocopters on good targets, and we're going to see what we can do as I go ahead and put this into standard speed. The mortars are just absolutely going to rain fire down on my poor Dwarf Warriors, who are just going to have to try and make it. So at this point, I've lined up. I'm taking my shots at Queen Bess. Getting a nice bomb drop there from the gyrocopter, from the Skyhammer. Ooh, one of my gyrocopters goes down. But you're going to see that the Skyhammer doesn't get any of those kills. I'm pretty sure that was 26 models died from that one drop. Didn't get a single kill. So it's really hard to measure how much damage the Skyhammer really does in battle until you really see it. And you'll see here the damn Knight Errants, they began to unsummon as soon as they were brought into the world. And by the time they're going to actually make it into a fight with me, they're going to be, pretty much gone. And I'm not investing too many resources into trying to stop them. Our Rangers are being absolutely crushed right now by the mortar, the concentrated mortar fire. And as the Knight Errants get into them, that's just going to be kind of the nail in the coffin as far as they're concerned. But my Slayers, kind of the unit that I missed, they're going to get in there and try and stop them with Ungrim. And just a little bit of concentrated effort, the Knight Errants are going to go down. So we've nearly got Queen Bess crumbling, which is really the goal. You want Queen Bess to start to crumble. That way she starts to deteriorate. That way she doesn't have a crew and she can't fire at you. So I thought I was so close that if I just charged in, you see there the leadership going to -15 for a second, it would start to crumble and I could just take it out of the battlefield. And with Queen Bess gone, I felt like I had a much better chance of surviving this fight. Already up to 49 kills, probably, well, guaranteed what's been affecting my Rangers so heavily. At this point, I've got my organ guns firing. At the moment, they're on the wrong targets, but I will be switching them up shortly. And my gyrocopters were not enough. They did not last long enough in melee to send Queen Bess into a full-on deteriorating spiral. Normally, once they start to deteriorate, they don't stop. And you'll see there the HP pool is just dropping and dropping. And my Skyhammer is losing HP. Non-stop carronade shots. Kind of fortunate, to be honest. If these carronades weren't shooting at the Skyhammer, they'd be shooting at my front line regardless. So now I know the onus is on me to advance, and that's certainly what I'm going to start doing in just a moment. Skyhammer routing off the battlefield. It's a sad day, but with the enchanted ballistics and more powder, Queen Bess still up to 11 ammunition, still not off the battlefield. The Skyhammer rallies, gets off a final shot, and then goes down to these carronades. So here we go. The dwarfs are coming. The organ guns are still firing. I've got my Rangers. God, what a devastating shot. Dwarf warriors taking 4 casualties there. But we can watch for Queen Bess's shots. There we go. And a big whiff there, thankfully. And we're also outside of the area of effect of the slow. But the mortars, honestly, for their cost, 700 I believe is what they cost, maybe 600. They've done just about as much damage this battle as Queen Bess has. And I'm going to stop my miners just short of engaging so that they can throw their satchels, get those explosive charges into these zombie pirates, soften them up so that when they do go into battle, they have a bit more of an advantage. My Rangers are currently firing. I've got my Ekron's miners being brought from the back. I love these guys. They have extra satchel charges and just really juice stats for miners. And they fight against pretty much any zombie unit very, very well. Out of charges now, they're going to go ahead and get into this battle. The Thanes have engaged. They'll take no damage whatsoever from any of these units. Rotting Prometheans being summoned here by Cylostra, and they're going to help chew through my Dwarf Warriors. Organ guns have been focused on the Lamprey's Revenge, and we've nearly got them dead. The Slayers are going to go ahead also and get in there. The units they were meant to fight. Slow it down just a bit as we listen to some Slayers talk trash. But Ungrim plus Slayers plus organ guns, and the regen on these units won't mean anything once they get absolutely crushed. Let's go ahead and fast forward that again. But this is just such an enormous blob for the mortars to be firing into. A little bit of friendly fire, but what do they care if they're killing Slayers and Dwarf Warriors? So I decided for a second here to try and hit Cylostra, but her physical resistance was proving too much. I managed to move Ekron's miners out of the way, as well as some of my Rangers, before the Lamprey's Revenge tore us up. And you'll see there I had to do a little bit of fast micro. We were talking in Discord and he was laughing because he's like, man, I almost got you with that one. I barely managed to dodge it. Ekron's miners still throwing in their blasting charges into this huge blob. And they can really just stand here and throw all day long, it feels like. We still haven't broken through this front line. And meanwhile, all of this artillery is fighting. It may have been a more sound strategy to keep back my gyrocopter units until this frontline engagement happened. And then while all the front line was engaged, we brought in the gyrocopters to attempt to shut down these units. That would probably have been ultimately a better strategy, but I was still hoping, against all hope, to out-skirmish my opponent somehow with these organ guns. But he just had too much artillery. I really didn't expect him to bring 6 pieces in this battle. Cylostra is now engaged in melee. Honestly, not that dangerous for her. I don't have very many tools to take her out. I don't have any rune smiths or really any kind of magic damage that is going to be very effective against her. So I just have to hope that Ungrim, with his overwhelming weapon strength, will be able to do something in the end against her. So once I start breaking holes in these front lines, There goes the organ gun ripping into this mortar. And it does so much damage. But it's kind of too little too late. But once the front line breaks, I can send in my miners, my cheap units, to try and shut down these units. But just so many summons coming in from Cylostra. You'll see here another group of rotting Prometheans. And they're going to help tear up what's left of my dwarf warriors on this side of the battlefield. And my slayers, are they still alive? Have they died? Have they gone down to the last man? I think they did. They were in it amongst this fight here, and you'll see all the carcasses of all the fallen slayers, probably having taken a ridiculous amount of mortar fire. The Thane completely surrounded by armor-piercing units, but still holding on, still able to do, enough damage to consider itself winning this fight. It's frightened by the nearby enemy unit, but it'll keep fighting until it's over. Switched over my organ gun again. I was trying to take her down. I figured if I had a shot at this game, it would be in destroying the leadership, taking out Cylostra somehow, some way, and forcing crumbling out of my opponents. My miners with blasting charges never made it in. Could not get them into the back line. Queen Bess, this entire time, she's been kind of, on the verge of routing, but just not quite there. I was just not able to do enough damage to her to shut her down for the duration of this fight. 249 kills and another square hit to my dwarf warriors. More mortar charges going off, ensuring that my miners stay routing. And of course the enemy carronades are now shooting into my organ guns. I still have 5 models online. Rotting Prometheans have gone down. Zombie pirates are dying to the Thanes on both flanks. Though they are injured, they're still fighting. My Rangers still have a small group here, 17 left with some ammunition. I'm trying to rally everything because if there's nothing left, no frontline troops whatsoever, only artillery crews and a slightly injured Cylostra, I feel like I have a chance with Ungrim and 2 Thanes and some organ gun overwatch. I feel like I can really get back into this game. So Ungrim's going to get on this carronade. They all have a decent amount of ammunition as well, which is worth noticing. So point-blank shots going off into Ungrim. Hopefully no friendly fire from the organ gun, but I'm trying to tear down this carronade as quickly as possible to hopefully free up my organ guns. But man, that mortar round was devastating, and they're both wavering. I still have 5 models left. They may be able to get off another shot. It looks like they're moving. Which would be terrible. Maybe their line of sight was blocked. That must have been the case. There's a lot of little hills and dips in this. Maybe I ordered them to shoot and they didn't have line of sight, but they should certainly not be moving. They should still be shooting at this point. Queen Bess finally goes down. My units have rallied. The Thane's still fighting. He's going to kill these polars basically to the last man. The Rangers are shooting now into these carronades. 1 Thane is into that carronade. Ungrim is slowly but surely deteriorating this carronade, but he's also kind of losing a fight to Cylostra. Without any kind of magic damage, this is honestly a pretty even fight. Also using the Song of Enthrallment to lower his melee attack. You listen there for a second as she sings in combat. It's pretty funny to listen to. Just doing my best. I'm trying to rout off every bit of units that he has that has ammunition left. And I figured at this point, I honestly felt like I was in an okay spot. Queen Bess is off the battlefield. This Gunnery Wight is no doubt shooting, but who knows how effective he's really being. I have 2 Thanes at, this one's maybe at about 35% health. This one's at maybe 65% health. And I felt like I had a shot. My Rangers, you see, just routed. My organ guns had shot, that's what had happened. They had shot all of their ammunition. Their last ammunition had gone into killing Queen Bess, I believe. And then I took them off their artillery pieces to move them forward. So the Thane gets in here and we destroy the last of the carronade, and he's going to fight the crew no problem. But yeah, just without magic damage, I just cannot kill Cylostra. And we're going to be taking some point-blank cannon fire here from this 1 carronade. Mortar's still going off. Looks like it's shooting at my routing Rangers, which is actually great, as my organ gun artillery crew is going to get into here and try and shut down. Look how determined they look. Get in there, guys, with their sweet-looking welding masks. And Ungrim with his power mohawk. Wow, smash that zombie. But I just cannot deal with Cylostra. Even with the Thane hitting her in the back. We're just trying to force her in some way, shape, or form to begin to crumble, or to do enough damage to really hurt her. Oh, look at another Vangeist Revenge. I actually stood still for this when I saw it coming. This is obviously where a lot of my micro was at this point in the battlefield. But I just figured it would not do a lot of damage to me, and may in fact do more damage to his Carronade unit than to me. But my Thane routes. My Thane with 1100 HP takes off. And I felt at that moment certainly betrayed. This one with 2200 HP, beating the heck out of these Carronades, decided to rout. I honestly couldn't believe it. If I would have thought for a moment that my two Thanes would run away, I would have brought them in tightly to this battle with Ungrim and tried to keep their resolve higher. But you see here, this Carronade that's been in the back this whole time, still 4 unit models and a good bit of ammunition, is firing nearly point blank at Ungrim. The Gunnery White's still here with half his ammunition. Cylostra's still here. She's got decent combat stats. Magic damage, once again, is going to be reduced by Dwarven magic. But Ungrim just doesn't have a good target. Oh, that was a devastating blow. For those of you who don't know, Ungrim Iron Fist has a trait called Unbreakable, where he will fight until he dies, which is not something that everything in this game does. Reserved only for really hardcore units and for the undead. You'll see he's in here trying to shut down this mortar. I'm trying to get whatever value I can to tip the scales of balance back in my favor, but at this point it's pretty much hopeless, and the Slayer King is going to try and meet a glorious end in battle. If those Thanes hadn't routed, which I still can't believe that I've played a lot of dwarves in my time, guys, and I've never seen Thanes with thousands of HP run from the battlefield like that, especially when it still felt so even. I think honestly the numerical value of these cannons, oh my god, it kind of glitched for a second right before the final shot, but then we get to see Ungrim get his head blown off. But I think the overall gold value of the artillery pieces, combined with the Gunnery White as a hero unit, all that value lending together with Cylostra made it so that, you know, I guess the computer's calculations felt like this battle was hopeless for me. But 2 Thanes with Ungrim, I honestly felt like I had a shot. At the moment when these 2 guys ran, this one had 2200 HP, this one was close to 1200, and Ungrim was sitting at about 1200 himself. Those 3 together would have been a powerhouse that could have probably run around and crushed all the artillery. But anyway, it was a very well fought fight for my buddy Triari, and maybe next time I'll show you guys a more traditional Dwarven build that we tested. I tested it. It's what I think is probably a standard viable dwarf build against almost any other faction, dependent on map. The map plays a really big part in what kind of artillery you take, what other kind of units you take. But for the most part, we played another game, and I'd like to show that one to you guys maybe tomorrow as I cast that. But fun game. Got to use some units you don't normally get to see. 3 kills on the Skyhammer. I mean, like I said, I got 26 kills in 1 bomb drop, and I dropped all of his bombs this battle that made pretty direct hits. I would love to know how many kills he actually got. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me today. Once again, my name is Brett. My channel is Good Talk Gaming. I hope you enjoyed this video a lot. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. I'm a new channel, and I appreciate every single subscriber that I get. And like the video if you did enjoy it. And guys, I will see you in the next one. Take care.